What if I said to you that one of the richest individuals in the world, individuals with private airplanes, 10-bedroom houses, and millions in the bank, end up bankrupt? It more commonly happens than you might imagine. It's not that they didn't make enough. It's not that they weren't lucky. And it's certainly not that they weren't intelligent. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Money is not about knowledge. It's about behavior. In this video, we'll summarize the largest takeaways from Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. You'll understand why individuals, yes, even the wealthy, are bad with money, and how you can learn from their mistakes. Hang in there until the end, because this is not merely a personal finance overview. It's a roadmap for transforming the way you think about freedom, happiness, and wealth. We've learned that being good with money involves being smart, educated, and able to read a stock graph, but it doesn't. Morgan Housel makes it explicit. Being good with money is less about intelligence and more about how you act.
Not having FOMO is the single most important financial skill. I think it's so important that you cannot ever imagine accumulating significant wealth over your lifetime if you are susceptible to FOMO.
Let's consider two examples. Ronald Reed worked as a gas station attendant and a janitor. Upon death, he had over $8 million stashed away. He had no great riches in his life, yet he lived modestly, saved conscientiously, and invested wisely. Now look at Mike Tyson. The internationally renowned boxer made more than $300 million over the course of his career, and he filed for bankruptcy. Why? Bad financial choices, extravagant spending, and no planning. This shows that it is not about how much money you earn, it is how you deal with it. Main takeaway: financial wealth is 10% about knowledge and 90% about behavior. When we observe a person driving a fancy car, we tend to say, wow, they are rich. But Morgan Housel puts that thought to rest. He reminds us that real wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the money you've not spent, the savings, the investments, the emergency fund. That pricey watch or large house could very well be financed by debt. The show-off may be living paycheck to paycheck, and someone who lives in a simple house and drives a second-hand car could be worth millions. Key takeaway: stop attempting to appear affluent. Simply be quietly affluent. Invisible wealth is the strongest wealth. One of the strongest forces in finance is compounding. And one of the largest reasons that money flees from people is that they don't let compounding do its job for long enough. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. But here's the amazing part: more than 90% of what he's amassed he did after age 50. Why? Because he began investing as a kid and never stopped. Time worked in his favor. Most individuals desire instant gratification. They switch strategies every few years. They panic and sell during downturns in the market. They interfere with compounding, but wealth depends on patience. Key lesson: allow compounding to be your ally. Be a long-term investor. Time beats timing. We wish that success was deserved and failure was earned. But the reality is, luck and risk matter more than we know. Morgan Housel relates the tale of Bill Gates. He went to one of the few high schools in the nation with a computer during the 1970s. That put him a gigantic head of everyone else. Was he intelligent? Yes. But he was also fantastically fortunate. At that same school was a student by the name of Kent Evans. He was equally as intelligent and ambitious, but he met death in a mountaineering accident when he was young. That's risk. So when you see someone who is successful, keep in mind, it's not all skill. And when you see someone who falters, keep in mind, it's not always failure. Key takeaway: humble about your victories, forgiving about others' defeats. Recognize the role of chance in life. That's a question most can't answer, because as soon as they achieve one goal, they shift the goalpost. Morgan Housel writes about Rajat Gupta. He went from rags to being the head of McKinsey, a giant consulting firm. He was over $100 million wealthy, but he wasn't satisfied. So he engaged in insider trading and wound up in prison. He put everything on the line, not out of greed, but because he couldn't establish enough. This is a trap we all fall into. The moment you make happiness equal a number, you'll never be rich. Another person will always have something greater. Know what enough is to you. Enjoy what you already have. Don't lose what you have for what you don't require. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's one of the most impactful principles in the book. Morgan admonishes: save as a pessimist, invest as an optimist. Here's why. Short term, bad stuff happens. Markets collapse. You lose your job. Emergencies crop up. That is why you must save. Save for the unexpected. Long term, however, the world gets better. Markets expand. Innovations swell. Life improves. That's why you need to invest. Saving insulates you from the unknown. Investing makes you bigger over time. Take care today, but keep hope for tomorrow. Why do we desire money? People believe it's for things: cars, homes, vacations. But Morgan Housel tells us the true motivation we pursue money for is freedom. Freedom to do anything you wish, when you wish, with whom you wish, for as long as you wish. That's the true luxury. Money purchases time control, and that's worth more than anything else. Think about it. You wake up and choose how to spend the day, not because you have to, but because you want to. That's freedom. Don't pursue only additional income. Pursue additional time. Financial freedom is the ultimate form of wealth. In business and in finance, a few events generate most of the results. They are tail events. In the markets, a few great winners create most of the gains. In entrepreneurship, a few key decisions make huge success or failure. So don't worry if most things don't work, because a few big wins will balance out all the losses. And don't let one large error kill everything. Prepare for occasional great events, hedge against downside risk, and when a plan is working, let it ride. Main point, you don't need to be right every time. You simply need to stay in long enough to catch a few big wins. Consider baseball players. The greatest hitters miss 70% of the time, but they're still legends. Investing is just the same. You can be wrong on your choices, your timing, and your forecasts, and still get rich if you get the big things right and you don't give up. The issue is, everyone demands perfection. No one needs to be correct every time. That is not going to occur. Rather, accept that you will make mistakes, learn from them, and don't quit on attempting again. Don't shoot for perfection, go for progress. Success is a result of remaining in the game. Your money mindset is influenced by your life story. If you were raised in poverty, you'll tend to save aggressively. If you were raised during a boom, you'll be more of a risk taker. No two individuals have the same financial experience. And that's the reason that people make decisions with money that are so different. There's no one right way to handle money. What is important is to find what works for you. Don't compare yourself to the others. Don't even take up a strategy just because it worked for someone else. Key lesson, understand how money relates to you personally. Know your values, your fears, and your goals. Here's an unpopular truth. Getting rich is boring. It's not flashy. It's not exciting. It doesn't happen overnight. It's saving consistently, living below your means, investing regularly, avoiding debt, and doing that for decades. But since it's not exciting, nobody does. They pursue the hot stock, the new cryptocurrency, the quick profit. They sacrifice long-term wealth for short-term thrill. Don't do that. Most important lesson, money mastery is easy, but not simple. The boring way is the wealthiest way. Throughout the psychology of money, Morgan Housel teaches valuable insights into why individuals, even the wealthy, have money troubles. The first important concept is that you don't have to be smart when it comes to money. You just have to be behaving well. You don't have to be a genius to build wealth. You have to have self-control, patience, and emotional restraint. Which brings us to the second lesson. True wealth is not visible. That fancy car or flashy lifestyle isn't necessarily an indication of someone being rich. True wealth is not something you can see. It's savings, investments, and freedom. The third one points out the power of compounding. Wealth accumulates exponentially in the long term, but only if you give it the time it requires. Most of us disturb compounding by taking emotional calls or seeking instant gratification. And then there's the fourth lesson, luck and risk. Success is sometimes dependent on luck, and failure does not always indicate bad choices. This makes us humble and refrain from judging people too quickly. Fifth, Housel cautions us against the never enough trap. Pursuing more without determining what enough is can end up in collapse, even for the rich. The sixth lesson tells us to save like cynics and invest like idealists. Save for the unknown people, yet invest with full confidence in the future. It's a mixture of pessimism and optimism. Seventh, and most deeply, is the concept that freedom, not material things, is the true purpose of money. Having control of your time is the wealthiest form of wealth. Lesson number 8 discusses the concept of tail events, those infrequent but strong opportunities, and how they define most financial results. Your success could hinge on a couple of important choices or opportunities, so don't try to win every single time. Just don't get cleaned out. Ninth, you can be wrong a lot and still succeed. Wealth isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. Insight number 10 is that everyone has a different story with money. Events in one's life determine what they believe and how they behave, hence the entire idea of personal finance being very personal. Do not follow others blindly. Know yourself first. 11th, wealth creation is slow and dull. The majority of people don't succeed not because they lack ideas on how to do it, but because they don't have the patience to keep doing it. Lastly, the 12th lesson reminds us that becoming rich and remaining rich are not the same. Becoming wealthy means taking some gamble. Remaining wealthy means being humble and careful. Overall, these lessons remind that money is not merely figures in a calculation, but is more psychologically driven, namely fear, greed, ego, and emotion. When it comes to understanding, it can transform everything. If these lessons have broadened the horizon of your thinking, take a moment to think. Which would be the one that struck you hardest in your financial journey? Perhaps it was the risk of always reaching for more. Perhaps it was understanding that true wealth is peace of mind, not stuff. Either way, if this video gave you value, please like it. It helps us reach more individuals who require this message. And for even more wisdom on dominating money, mindset, and life in general, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. We break down complicated concepts into narratives and lessons you can apply. Leave a comment below and tell us your largest takeaway. Let's begin a dialogue that allows us all to learn. Because ultimately, the psychology of money is something we all live with. Rich or poor, broke or somewhere in between. Thanks for watching, and as always, wealth is not a number, it's a mind.